always find yourself just wanting that little bit more.
Turn up the bass!
Well, how's it otherwise? Are you well, Marchoners, Marchonetters, and Marchonetinos? Welcome to Wharrgarbl Studios. My name is Will, and this is the audio trip.
Dude, I'm tripping balls! Dude, I'm tripping balls!
The series where we try and educate ourselves on all things hi-fi, and hopefully assist you with your buying decisions in the process. It's been quite a while since we've done one of these videos, and I'm actually quite looking forward to it. We've been experimenting with a whole bunch of different kinds of content on the channel, and that experimentation will continue.
Welcome to science!
But I'm really happy to be back doing one of these videos because I think that there's a lot of value, especially if you're a musician trying to figure out if there's actually anything worthwhile in all this hi-fi stuff. And without any further ado, here it is, the moment you've all been waiting for. I present to you the granddaddies of our Samson budget golden boys, the AKG K240s. Ever since the Samsons wowed me when we first got the channel up and running, I've been really dying to get my hands on these legendary cans, so I could see what all the fuss was about. We did an unboxing of these headphones a while ago at the beginning of the channel, and if you haven't seen that absolute mess of a video, I'll provide a link for you to check it out, but please be gentle. You see, the Samsons are not the only headphones that draw inspiration from the AKG K240s. There's been countless headphones that have used elements of this tried and true AKG design, including other affordable cans like the Superlux HD681s and the Presonus HD7s, and with good reason. They were designed in the 1970s in Austria, and the original incarnation of the AKG K240s was a 600 ohm beast that was intended to be a just no-nonsense general-purpose set of studio monitors. Over the years, there's been a number of changes in the design that mean that the headphones we get today do sound somewhat different from those original models, but I guess the real question is, after all this time, do they sound any good at all? You guys know how this works by now. We're going to divide this review up into 5 different sections. Build quality, comfort, sound quality, where we'll be breaking down the treble, the mid-range and the bass, soundstage and imaging, and final subjective thoughts.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
And just to make it clear, these are my own headphones that I bought with my own money, and we're not being sponsored in any way. With all that out of the way, let's jump straight into the build quality of the K240s, and I'd say that they're definitely a step up from the Samsons, but for the price difference between the two, I really did expect them to be a bit more of a step up. The materials are the same, it's plastic all round, but the materials are of a much better quality compared to those used to make the Samsons. In particular, the ear pads. The ear pads are much softer and more pliable. I really love that it has a replaceable cable via a mini XLR jack. Cables are always the first parts of headphones to go, and it's nice to know that the cables won't be a limiting factor in the lifespan of these cans. Everything fits together really nicely, just that little bit better than the Samsons. And any moving parts like the ear cups or the headbands do their thing with a much greater sense of confidence and freedom. I think it would be really nice to see some metal parts from the cheaper AKG K52s on these, especially considering that they're more expensive. But maybe that's reserved for the K240 Mark IIs, the headphones which are the next step up from these. It's important that I note for you guys that there were some QC issues with my specific headphones, at least as far as build quality is concerned.
There's nothing wrong with Android. We have the best quality.
There are some sharp plastic edges on the ear cups that the faux leather earpad material is stretched over, and just through usage, the plastic has started to wear through the faux leather, and I suspect that means I'll have to do something about the ear cups at some point. I really hope that this isn't a feature of the design, because if it is, it's a pretty bad design. The second issue that I noticed was that the way the ear pads were attached to the ear cups was actually quite poor, and for the money that I paid, I really would have expected better workmanship, especially from a company that's now owned by Samsung.
Your music's bad and you should feel bad.
Next up, from a comfort perspective, there's actually very little for me to say here. These cans come out on top of the headphones that I currently own, by a mile. Straight up, they just sit on my head that little bit better, they just give slightly less clamping pressure, and those slightly softer ear pads mean I can use these headphones for hours without realizing I have them on. It's amazing how these little subtle differences in materials and design can result in major performance improvements. Now let's talk about the most important part, how these headphones sound. And I'm going to bring up a graph of the frequency response of these headphones on the screen now, and I'll provide a link to my source for this plot in the description below. In terms of bass, you can describe the AKGs with just one word, and that's lean.
Lean back, lean back, lean back.
There is satisfactory tone to things like bass guitars, and you can hear the impact of kick drums, but there isn't that associated weight which normally follows, and quite honestly, I kind of missed that. Given that they're semi-open back headphones, I wouldn't expect there to be much in the way of low end, but given my experience with the Samsons, I was expecting something at least along the same lines, and I was kind of disappointed when it wasn't there.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
I did experiment with the bass boost functionality on my FIO E10K, which is the headphone amplifier I used throughout this review, and we've published a review of that headphone amplifier previously. I'll link you to that as well if you're interested. Using that bass boost functionality didn't really seem to help all that much. It added some weight, but it did sort of nothing to take it into the realms that I was looking for when I was listening to Root Down by Jimmy Smith. I did switch it up by listening to something a little bit heavier, the new Lamb of God record Omens, and I got the same lack of weight there. In this case, the bass was basically all but inaudible.
I can't hear you!
Now moving into the mid-range, this is definitely the star of the show. I don't get the impression that there's much editorializing going on here, which makes sense given that these headphones are most famous as studio cans. Everything from guitars and woodwinds to organs and vocals are supremely listenable and clear, but I will say that the mid-range isn't especially warm, it's just very clear. Lastly, the treble, and this is a bit tricky for me. I wouldn't say that they're murky or rolled off, but I don't feel that they're very detailed, at least to me. Like when you hear a cymbal crash, the impact is there, but it doesn't really appear to sparkle, and there doesn't appear to be much decay to the sound. These headphones are not especially forgiving. When you listen to music that you know for a fact is poorly recorded, it basically becomes unlistenable with very harsh treble that, in my case, fatigued my ears in minutes. All in all, I think that they work really well with certain genres, especially softer genres like jazz and vocal pop, but with more bombastic stuff like heavy metal, it's not that they sound bad, they just don't seem to have the requisite low end to make the listen very satisfying. That being said though, the mid-range growl of distorted guitars can be very enjoyable through these. Next, let's chat about soundstage and imaging. So the soundstage is broad and immersive as you would expect from semi-open back headphones, and with amplification and well-recorded music, you can really get lost in an album.
What the fuck is going on?
But I didn't find them to be especially dynamic, which was quite surprising, and it may be that the FIO isn't necessarily the best pairing with these cans, but I think it's important to note here that they are slightly more power hungry than what we've seen on the channel in the past. They have an impedance of 55 ohms as opposed to the 32 ohms which we've seen previously. It doesn't seem like much of a big difference, but it does have a noticeable impact when using something like a smartphone to play back music on. One thing I was really surprised about when talking about imaging specifically is that I felt that the cheaper K52s actually image better than the K240s, with much clearer separation between instruments throughout the soundstage, but the K240s do have a broader and more three-dimensional soundstage. Before we get stuck into my final subjective thoughts, I'd just like to say that if you guys have been enjoying the content that we provide on the channel over here, it would be awesome if you could provide a like, hit the subscribe button, and just smash the notification bell so that you can get notified when new videos come out. So the big question is, can I recommend these headphones? And the answer is yes, but with the caveat that I wouldn't say that they're for everyone. If you like low-end extension, I'd say rather look elsewhere, as you'll always find yourself just wanting that little bit more.
Turn up the bass!
However, if you favor neutrality and mid-range detail over all-out heft, then I'd say pick these up as soon as you possibly can. While the materials and build quality are not as much of a step up from the Samsons as I would like, the comfort more than makes up for it. It is important for me to say that if you like the Samsons, I wouldn't say that you would automatically like these. The two sets of headphones actually have quite a different sound signature to them. And if you're expecting the Samson sound, but just more of it or a better version of it from the AKGs, you're going to be disappointed. The design may be similar, but the drivers inside clearly are not. Will I hang on to these headphones? Absolutely. In fact, they've actually become my studio cans. I use them not only to check my audio mixes for the songs that I'm working on, but also to mix the audio for these videos. And I'm really keen to see how they hold up in the long run. And maybe I'll do a retrospective video in another couple of months to see how they've held up, if that's something you guys would be interested in. And that's our review of the AKG K240s. What do you think? Do you agree with our assessment, or do you think we're talking absolute nonsense? Let us know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video, and we'll catch you in the next one.